love the cerebellum. The cerebellum is like, in Latin, it's known as the little brain. It's like, look at how much this is, it just right down here. It's such a small portion of the brain, but it makes up to 50% of the total neurons. And it's the place where we do motor coordination and movement. It's also been shown to be linked to hippocampal function, which is the memory center of the brain, and the frontal cortex, where we kind of like strategize and plan and like communicate with other people. And I just like, that's how I got into the juggling. And like one of the things that like amazed me about the body and the brain when I was younger, because, and especially when I started like strength training and trying to heal my body, because it's such an undeniable portion. Like, movement is such an undeniable factor of our bodies, like our kinetic energy. Kinetic means like movement. We could do chemical energy too, like plants, or we go outside and we take in the sunlight and we can use that as energy. It's so fascinating. It's like, I don't know how you're not fascinated by looking at this picture. I definitely don't know how, if you're not fascinated by this picture. This picture is so beautiful, like a little orchestra. And mitochondria are basically like tiny suns in our body. They give off like infrared light because that's where we produce most of the energy in the cell. And our, like, your body temperature, heat production, like what happens when the body dies? It becomes cold. There's no light emanating from it. And we are alive, we have a temperature, we have heat that's constantly leaving our bodies. And like the coolest thing is that mitochondria have their own DNA, and that they can make more of themselves. Like, they can either undergo fusion or fission, where they either can consume each other. Like the cell can eat out components that are not doing their job right. And sometimes we have mitochondrial dysfunction, where they're not really, like, they're just taking up space, like they're doing a poor job. Like sometimes, you ever been at work and, like you have coworkers, and sometimes it would be just smoother if they weren't there. Like, it's actually more chaotic and your job is harder because they are not doing their job. They're only doing like 30%, and so like you have to go behind them and clean up and like make sure that the work gets done. But it would be smoother. Things would go much smoother if they were just out of the picture. So that's what your cell does, because it's all about efficiency at the cellular level. If you're not doing your job right, you got to go. And that's the important part about fasting, is that we give our cells like a signal and a reason to like batten down the hatches for a moment and like clean it up. So I don't know, I've like always found that fascinating. And really, it started like when I was younger. My fascination with the body started when I was younger, when I taught myself how to juggle. So I don't know, I think it's just fun. Like, it's cool how like like movement and activity can increase our gray matter, and it increases all of the energy production in our body when we are communicating with our cerebellum, when we're using our muscle coordination, our movements, specifically like muscular contractions. And when we do muscle contractions too, we turn on an extra glucose transporter. They call it like GLUT4 or GLUT4, but we can basically scoop up a lot more sugar more easily. And we're always facing like that insulin resistance. I always say, what is the difference between divorce and dementia? Dementia is known as diabetes type 3. It's issues with insulin in the brain. And so like one of the best ways to strengthen the insulin sensitivity of the brain is to get the insulin sensitivity of the muscles, get the muscles moving. And yeah, just a place for the sugar to go, like a sponge. It's just going in there. And then like muscle also balances our oxygen levels. So we know about like the disease state is that our oxygen levels lower, and our body is just, it's not keeping its homeostasis as well. It's not keeping the blood sugar in range, not keeping the oxygen in range, right? Like, things are going out of whack. Like, you want that rhythm, like the balls, like the juggling, like there's a rhythm And when things get chaotic, you know, I might throw that ball way over there. And then I would have to go get it, you know. I'd be way out of my rhythm, you know. I might just drop it just randomly because I'm not perfect and I'm not exactly in control all the time. I might just drop the ball and I'll have to pick it up, you know. So it's just fascinating. All of it's so fun. It's so fascinating. And like, I'm real big on, I really wanted to improve my skin health. Like, this has been one of my biggest journeys for myself because I was taking an acne medication years ago, and, you know, anti-anxiety medications. I was having a rough little time. And, you know, I came to study the immune function, and the cerebellum is also like, it's just energy. Like, if you have not enough energy, like the immune system, they are on constant surveillance all the time. They need minerals and nutrients and vitamins, and, you know, we're constantly overstressed and depleting our nutrient stores, or we just have diets that aren't amino and fatty acid dense, and then we don't get enough sleep at night. So it's just like, it's chronic circadian rhythm disharmony. And, you know, it's just like, we're just trying to get back into this harmony in 2025. We're just trying to keep it simple in 2025. You know, drop the ball, keep on going. But like, if you keep on trying to complicate things, it's like you're paralyzed by uncertainty. I read a quote earlier today in the Course of Miracles. It's without uncertainty, you are free. Without doubt, you are free. Without fear, you know. And I feel like as you understand, as I've come to understand the body more, and like the cell, you know, so the cell is like waiting for a signal from the bloodstream, right? Like, the cell is like blind, and it's just using its intuition to see like what signals, like how high is the blood sugar, you know, how high is the oxygen levels, you know, how fast, you know, what is the pH level. Like, I need to know this because I need to know what I need to express. This is the cell saying, I need a signal, I need to know what to express. So like, that's why when you eat nutrient dense foods and you go exercise, you change your blood levels, right? You do a meditation, you change your blood levels. Like, everything we do, you're a biochemist, so everything you do, you change everything. You know, what are you reflecting back to the cell? Like, what are you, you know, what are you having for your genetic expression, you know? So it's just beautiful. And again, mitochondria have DNA, and they can also help the nucleus have a more vibrant expression. And just what this expression looks like is that the cell is not expressing that it's in a high stress environment. It can signal that, okay, maybe I'm going to work on the infrastructure of the cell. I'm going to work on the building, you know, I'm going to work on my skin health. I'm going to work on my libido and my creativity. Like, I'm not in an imminent danger, so I can just relax. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just beautiful. I just love this stuff. Love it so much. Love the juggling too. I recommend it if you're just bored, like, or if you have like some ADHD tendencies, because I think that I may have some. But I'll end this video here. This might be long enough with the quotes. May you always be blessed with the clarity to know what is and what isn't for you. As you go closer to your circadian rhythm and start to understand your body and your cells more, like, I believe that the intuition gets stronger, and our intuition is like our foresight. And I feel like it's much easier to have the foresight than it is to learn from hindsight. You know, learning the easier route than the hard route. What is your body telling you as far as your symptoms? You know, do you need to wait for a really full-blown diagnosis to change things in your life, to change your habits, to change your biochemistry? Or are you going to take the small symptoms in a bite-sized understanding and work towards changing your biochemistry? You know, if you keep getting headaches and cramps, you know, understanding your body's dehydrated. How can I hydrate my body? Hydrate it with minerals, vitamins, and nutrients, nutrient-dense foods. I can meditate, I can practice, slow down my breathing rate just for a very short period of time. Do I mimic my deep wave sleep state at night, where I'm really just low and slow with my breath? You know, you could do anything you want. Just going out in the sun changes the biochemistry, build vitamin D. Vitamin D levels being low is involved in almost every disease state, so vitamin D is always an important part of what our cells need to feel safe. So anyway, I'm gonna go. If this video is helpful for you, I hope that it is. I hope that you feel inspired to make a change in your life. And even if you just have a moment of inspiration and don't do anything about that, that moment that you feel inspired or see yourself doing something differently, you've already done that. Like, you've already created that idea and that thought. So don't beat yourself up too much. Like, congratulate yourself. I thought to go do something different and I'm getting closer to it. I'm already there. I'm doing it, you know? Be your biggest fan. Like, I am your biggest fan. And it might sound overly optimistic to hype yourself up this way, but it's okay because you got this. You drop the ball, you keep going. You just drop the ball and you keep on going. So anyway, I'm gonna leave this here. As always, I wish you the best of luck.